I left my younger brother abused for a very long time. I am worst older brother ever. I wanted to stand up for him, but that one fear kicks in. Every single week, my younger brother endures physical and verbal abuse. He's torn down, bit by bit, and every single week, I sit there, watching it happen, too paralyzed by fear to step in and protect him. That fear, rooted deep in old trauma, keeps me chained in silence. I remember one time when I tried to stand up. It was a rare moment of courage. I was younger, braver, and still believed I could make a difference. I told my mom the truth about something small, something I can't even remember now, but her reaction, that's burned into my memory. She turned on me, her words sharp and cutting. "Shut up, you're just a busybody. Do you even know what that means? Busybody, who do you think you are? Running your mouth like that? You're a fool, that's what you are. Ever heard the saying, a fish dies because of its mouth? You're the perfect example. People like you are stupid, both stupid and a busybody. You should have just kept quiet instead of getting involved. You're nothing but a loudmouth. Watch out." I froze, my body went numb, my face tingled, my hands shook, and my jaw clenched, and I sat there, silenced. When she saw my reaction, she lashed out again, knowing exactly how to push me back down. I hate myself for that moment. I hate myself for every time I let fear win. If there's anyone I despise more than my mother or my aunt, it's me. I'm a coward. I can't even protect my own brother. I'm too scared of getting hurt, of facing the consequences, to do what's right. I ask myself every single day, why didn't I help him? Why didn't I step in and take the blows instead? I've done the research. I know what's happening is wrong. My head is full of theories and ideas about standing up for what's right. But when it comes to actually doing something, I freeze. I'm taller than my mom, heavier too. I have the responsibility of an older brother, the duty of a decent human being. So why do I let fear control me? Why do I let my brother suffer while I stand there, paralyzed by the thought of getting hurt myself? I tell myself I don't want to ruin my own future by getting involved. But the truth is, I just can't handle the pain, physical or emotional. And that makes me hate myself even more. Every time I see my brother get hurt, I think, why can't it be me instead? Why am I so selfish? I'm not brave enough to protect him, and I despise myself for it. I'm one of the people I hate most in this world, cowardly, selfish, and trapped in my own fear. I hate it. I hate myself more than anything. I once stole $5 from a Hispanic immigrant and it haunts me. Exactly as the title says, I got fired from my sales job due to too many medical absences. It stung, but what really pushed me over the edge was the way my boss handled it, treating me like I was disposable. I was angry and hurt, so I did something stupid. I went around pretending I was still a sales associate, but this time, I pocketed the money instead of handing it over. Door-to-door sales is already brutal, but it's even worse when you're lying about it. The company I used to work for was supposed to help charities advertise and raise funds. I figured if rich folks can afford to ignore real charities, maybe they'd spare a bit for me, even if they didn't know it was all going into my pocket. I hit up middle income to wealthy neighborhoods, hoping someone would give. After knocking on around 20 doors, I was met with the same old excuses from people living in custom-built homes with luxury cars parked outside. It was frustrating. How could these people act like they had nothing to give? And then there was this one house, a small, modest one compared to the others. A middle-aged Hispanic man answered the door, and he could barely speak English. Yet, he was the only one who donated. He handed me $5, and I could feel my heart drop into my stomach. His house was clearly the least impressive in the neighborhood, and his car was a bit beat up, but he gave when he had every reason not to. I took that $5 and drove straight to McDonald's, bought myself a meal, and then cried the entire way home. I cried for scamming someone who was struggling more than anyone else I'd asked. I cried because I was bitter none of the well-off folks cared enough to help. And I cried because I only had $20 left in my bank account with no idea when I'd land a new job. It's been years since that day, and my life's improved a lot since then. I have savings now, and I'm in a better place. But that memory still haunts me. I still feel guilty about what I did, taking from someone who likely needed it more than I did at the time. It's a lesson that's stuck with me, even if it's one I wish I'd never had to learn the hard way. A girl at school charged at me because I was staring at her. There's this girl I can't help but stare at every single day. Every time we cross paths in the hallway. It's almost like a habit at this point, but I think she started noticing and she's not exactly happy about it. Things have escalated to the point where she's literally chased me down the hallway a few times. One of the craziest moments happened during passing time when the hallway was packed. I was just walking, minding my own business, or at least trying to, and she was a bit ahead of me. As usual, I found myself staring at the back of her head, lost in thought. Out of nowhere, she turned around, locked eyes with me for what felt like an eternity, probably like 4 seconds in reality, and then she yelled, "Bro, stop looking at me." Next thing I know, she's shoving people out of her way and charging straight at me like she's on a mission. My instinct kicked in, I turned around and bolted. I was weaving through the crowd, trying to lose her, but she was right behind me. We kept running until we turned a corner where 2 administrators were standing. I started stomping my feet loudly, hoping they'd notice. It worked. Both of them turned to look, and one of them told me, "Go back and try that again." So, I walked back like they said and tried to look as innocent as possible. Meanwhile, the administrators were talking amongst themselves, pointing out how she was pushing me around. She got in trouble for chasing me, and I could see she was pretty annoyed. What made it even funnier was when one of my classmates, who's seen her run after me before, walked by with his friend and casually said, "She always be going after him." Bro! Now, I'm not exactly sure what her deal is, whether she's just fed up with me or if this is some weird kind of attention, but either way, these hallway chases have become something I never expected.
I knocked a homeless guy unconscious because he tried to take my latte. Nobody will ever know but me. I started a new job just over a year ago, and I've been walking to work every day since. My shift runs from 7 to 3, and since I don't own a car, I have to trek through the city on foot. Most of the walk is along main streets, but there's this one alley I cut through to shave off a few minutes. Near that alley is a coffee shop, and like most places in the city, there's always a crowd of homeless people hanging around. They're usually harmless, just asking for spare change or food, but there's one guy who stands out. Let's call him Bob. Bob practically lives outside this coffee shop, hoping someone will buy him a drink. I've had a habit for years of treating myself to an iced latte every Friday, and on my first Friday at the new job, I made the mistake of being kind-hearted. Bob asked me for a coffee, and I figured, why not? I got him a small black coffee, the cheapest thing on the menu, and grabbed my usual 20 O's latte. But when I stepped outside, before I could hand him his drink, Bob snatched mine and walked off like it was nothing. I was stunned. From that day on, Bob started harassing me every time I passed the coffee shop. He'd yell at me to buy him a coffee, catcall, and sometimes even follow me down that alley, getting uncomfortably close. It always happened early in the morning when the streets were mostly empty, which I think is why he felt bold enough to do it. In the evenings, when the streets were busier, he wouldn't say a word. But those morning encounters? They got more intense every time. Once or twice, he even tried to grab my bag or whatever I was carrying. About a month into my new job, I was walking down the alley, latte in hand, when I heard footsteps behind me. I didn't need to look back to know it was Bob. This time, he wasn't just following me. He was getting closer and closer, his hand reaching out for my drink. Something in me snapped. Before I could even think, I turned and swung. My fist connected with his jaw, and the guy went down like a sack of bricks, smacking into the side of a building as he collapsed. I'm not exactly small. I'm 5'11", 155 pounds, and I've been lifting weights for years. I've also got some martial arts training, so I know how to throw a punch. In fact, I once accidentally knocked out a 280-pound guy during a class. So it wasn't really surprising that Bob hit the ground hard. I think I saw blood, but I didn't stick around to check. I just kept walking. The alley was deserted. No windows faced that side, and it was barely past 6 a.m. There wasn't a soul in sight. It was like we were in a different world for those few moments. The streets outside were empty, and no one was around to see what went down. For days I was on edge, wondering if I'd get a knock on my door or see some headline about what happened. But nothing. A whole year has passed, and I haven't seen Bob near that coffee shop, or anywhere else. I highly doubt I killed him, but I'm pretty sure I scared him off for good. It's one of those things I'll take to the grave. I don't recommend anyone doing what I did. It was impulsive and reckless, but it worked. And now every time I walk down that alley, it's just another quiet shortcut.